Welcome to the movie channel, guys. Today we're going to take a look at what Shadowlands has to offer us when it comes to systems. Now there are two systems that I want to focus on that I'm going to explain to you about, which is the Covenant system and also the Conduit system. I hope that after this video you will know what they are and you know how they work. Let's take a look. Shadowlands is a place where we will end up in after we die in World of Warcraft. This place have 5 main zones. In 4 of these zones, there are factions. In Shadowlands, we call them covenants. There are 4 covenants in Shadowlands. The Kyrians, the Venthyr, the Necrolords, and the Night Fae. The Kyrians, this covenant hangs out in a zone called Bastion. The Venthyrs, they are in Ravendreth. Necrolords are in Maldraxxus, and Night Fae, well, they are in Ardenweald. You also have a main city in Shadowlands called Oribos. No matter if you're Alliance or Horde, you'll hang out there together as one, and it's like all the other shared cities, such as Dalaran. Then we have one last zone. And this zone does not have a covenant, called the Maw. This is an end game zone where you hang out where when you max level, then you do dailies and stuff. Okay, so that was the zones and the covenants. Now let's take a close look into how the covenants actually work, what they will give you. When you hit max level, in the end, you have to choose one of these covenants that you want to belong to. Choosing a covenant will give you some cool stuff. Well, except for the mounts and transmog, stuff like that, which we're going to cover in another guide. In this case, we're going to focus a little bit more into the character power. One of the things you actually get is called a universal ability. Now, this is an ability that you can use no matter what class or spec you are. You'll always have the exact same. If you want to be a Kyrian, you get the ability to summon a Steward. This one restores health and also dispels. If you want to be a Venthyr, you get the Door of Shadows ability. A teleport that takes around 1.5 seconds to cast. If you want to be a Necrolord, you get the Fleshcraft ability, which is an Absorb Shield. And if you want to be a Night Fae instead, you get the ability called Soul Shape, which turns into a fox that runs fast and has Blink. So that's one universal ones. Another thing you get is a class-specific ability. All classes in the game will have a specific ability for that covenant that you picked. And when you get that ability, all specs you have can use it. Hey Moody, you've actually forgot to mention that you can change covenant. You can change covenant. If you change a covenant, it's totally fine. You change it, it's done. But if you want to change back to a covenant you were before, well, then you have to make some quests and there's a little bit of downtime before you can actually do it, but eventually it will be done. The third thing you get is called soul binding. You will bind your soul to a specific NPC in your covenant and get abilities from them. So each covenant will have their own specific NPCs that you can bind your soul to. There are 3 NPCs in each covenant, and each NPC has specific abilities that you can have whenever you choose that NPC, and you can bind your soul to one NPC at a time. Each NPC has its own talent tree. You unlock traits, meaning abilities, on these talent trees when you gather something called Renown, and you gather Renown to your covenant. Gathering Renown makes you level up in your covenant. Different levels unlocks row of traits. So what are these abilities? Well, they're divided in passives, so these are basically passive abilities, and the other one are called conduits, and these are empty slots from the beginning. And you have to gather these conduits, sort of gems, but much cooler. And once you have one, you can put that in an empty conduit slot. Alright, Not wherever you want though, because conduits are divided in 3 main types: finesse, potency, and endurance. And you can also see the image of finesse, potency, and endurance under that empty slot, so you know which one goes where. So what are the differences between these 3? Well, the finesse one has to do with movement. For example, blink cooldown is reduced by 1 second when it comes to a frost mage. Potency is more about power. For example, ice lance damage is increased for a frost mage. And the endurance one is more about defense stuff. For example, an ice block heals when you use the ice block for a frost mage. Each talent tree has pathways of choices that unlocks the different types of conduit slots. You cannot put 2 of the exact same conduit on a talent tree, but you can have the same conduit on the different Soulbind NPCs instead. Alright, so now when we understood a little bit more about what Soulbinds are and what conduits are, let's take a look at how to change conduits. This is how the UI looks at the moment. Well, actually, the latest beta build that just came out, they swapped the ability furthest down here, and put it on top instead. Basically, this ability that is down here is the best one you get. So before the latest build, you had to level up with renown on your covenant to get the best ability, which is furthest down here. But the latest build, they swapped it and put it on top instead. Alright, this character has leveled up all renown needed to level up with Venthyr to unlock all slots. Now I have chosen all abilities and added conduit to all slots. What if I want to change the conduit? What I'm like, oh, I don't want this anymore. I want to do some changes. If I change a spec, I will actually have the exact same pathway that I had before. So either you can have different Soulbind NPCs for different specs, but let's say that you want the same Soulbind NPC, but for another spec, because you feel like this is the best one for the content that you do as DPS. And for example, as a tank. This is how it works. Furthest down to the right, you'll find dots. These dots are called conduit energy. If you want to change one conduit, it will cost energy. One conduit costs 1 energy. At the moment, I think you start with 7 energy every weekly reset. And you'll also get 1 energy every 24 hours. So every day you get a new energy. Let's say that you want to change these 3 conduits. As you can see on the bottom right, 3 energies are highlighted, so you can easily see how much it will cost to make this change. 3 conduits, 3 energy. And then just press on the apply button and you're good to go. Next stop, ranks on conduits. Now conduits have an eye level. The higher eye level, the better power it gives. Each eye level of a conduit has a rank on it. The lowest rank has the eye level 145, and the highest one, rank 7, has an eye level of 226. I'll come back to later on how to get these, but let's say you got one. You can actually upgrade the eye level of it. In the Maw, which is the end zone content that I said before, we have an NPC called Venari. You'll meet her for the first time when leveling in Shadowlands. At max level, you'll get to know her even more. This NPC will have a vendor for you that you unlock just by doing the first quest that sends you to the Maw at max level. To access all the stuff from the vendor, you need to increase the reputation with Venari, the NPC. Now, this reputation is not the basic neutral, friendly, normal, honored, revealed, exalted. No. This is about the reputation on her opinion of you. And of course, it's ranked. Dubious, apprehensive, tentative, ambivalent, cordial. I don't know if I pronounced them correct, but you see it. Her opinion of you is increased the more tasks you do for her, like dailies and such. The higher opinion she has of you, the more items are unlocked for buying in the vendor. The vendor sells stuff that you can buy with a new currency called Stygia. Most of the stuff here will help you when you are in the Maw and also in Torghast. But for this guide, we're going to focus on two main ones. One called Manifest Aetherish Hunt. Now, this one says add a conduit you do not have to your collection. Or if you have one, upgrade an existing conduit by 1 rank. The upgraded conduit will be selected randomly from your lowest rank conduits. So yeah, you can choose which conduit you want to upgrade. It picks the lowest one. And since we are talking about this vendor, I also want to add another really cool, huge thing you can buy. And that's a spatial realignment apparatus. Now this is basically that you can add a socket to an item that you got in Shadowlands that doesn't have a socket yet. And it can be used on helms, necks, bracers, belts, or rings. Last but not least, farming the conduits. So where do we get our hands on these conduits and all these ranks and all that stuff? You get them from world quests, reputation, PvP, dungeons, normal, heroic, mythic, and also raid. Castanephria raid at the moment, normal, heroic, and mythic. Well, there you go, guys. I hope this was informative enough to understand the system of the covenants and the conduits. If it was, then please press that like button. If you want more, well, then you can press that subscribe and the bell so you know when a new video is out, because I'm gonna start popping out quite a lot now for Shadowlands. If you want to hang out with me, then you're more than welcome to join my Twitch channel, Moody. Follow me on social media, and also if you don't want to watch videos and want to some written guides, I have loads. Check out my website, worldofmoody.com. Until next time, guys.